Dear songwriter, balance is hard, and balancing our songwriting with the rest of what we have going on is also really hard. And when we think about our lives and we think about our responsibilities, the harsh truth is that oftentimes art, and in our case songwriting, is the first thing to go. And this is something that I have certainly struggled with, and I still do. Even now, being a songwriting coach, still have trouble making that time for my music and all of my other things that I got going on in my life. And so in today's episode, bringing you into an interview that I did with my business coach, Evan Price, who runs this company called Artist Collective, who helps people like me basically build a life and business doing what they love, in my case, songwriting, and helping people write songs. And we go into the struggles with that balance, strategies on how to balance, in my case, my business with my own songwriting. So this episode is for you if you are struggling with balance in general. And it's also for you if you're just kind of curious about the world of entrepreneurship within this space of songwriting and the larger music industry. And yeah, to just kind of give you a little bit of a glimpse into my life on a personal level. My name is Connor Frost. I'm a professional songwriting mentor who's helped hundreds of songwriters now to write and release their first collection of songs. And this is Dear Songwriter, the podcast to help you confidently write and release your music so that you can start your journey with songwriting and live out your most musical and creative life. Hope you enjoy the episode. This was from a couple weeks back now. So yeah, enjoy, and I will talk to you next week. Here we go.
Hey, artistpreneurs. Got another expert interview here for you. I am here with Mr. Connor Frost. Connor is a full-time artistpreneur with a thriving songwriting coaching business, but he's still an artist too, still touring original music. I know we've talked a couple times on a bunch of different things, and I just wanted to specifically highlight both sides of you. You know, yeah, you're building this like awesome songwriting coaching business for the past several years, but you also make sure to focus on the artist side of you as well. So you don't want that to die either. That's always been a huge part of like what you do. So I definitely wanted to like highlight that as well. But welcome, dude. Thanks for being here and letting me grill you for a little bit and sharing some value for the people that are in this group that are looking to likely do what you're doing as well. So
yeah, it's good to be here.
You want to give a little self intro?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of summarized it, but yeah, I'm Connor, singer, songwriter, band leader, educator. Have been working with songwriters for, I guess, almost 5 years now, which is pretty wild. But I've been teaching for almost 15 years, which is even crazier. And yeah, you know, it's funny. It kind of feels like my artistry and what I do as an educator have really become one. The way I like to sort of think about it now is I'm documenting my journey, and I'm helping others along the way. And so I've especially recently made a point to share my learnings, my findings, documenting my songwriting process a little bit more, in hopes that, you know, what I learned can be passed on to my students, whether you're following peripherally or whether you're working, you know, directly with me one-on-one. And so that's been a really cool reframe and has allowed me to like really dial in my purpose of creating and educating. And so, yeah, that's been kind of a cool, I don't know, I guess transformation that's happened over the last, I would say, couple of years specifically.
Yeah, this isn't one of my questions written down, but it just came to me here. How do you battle that, you know, because like you said, you're like kind of always learning and then always teaching at the same time. Like, how do you battle that, like, for the lack of a better term, that imposter syndrome of just like, I'm always learning, so who am I to teach? Like, I
Yeah.
know a lot of our clients deal with that. Everybody deals with that in the coaching field. So how do you kind of battle that internally?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, your job as a coach is not to give the answers, but it's to empower your students to find the answers, right? So
Mm,
just alleviate the pressure that you need to know everything, because A, that's not true. B, even if it were true, that's not necessarily what your clients need. They don't need the answer spoon fed to them, right? And so that's definitely been helpful. And then I think also. Really kind of what I just said, like the idea of documenting, documenting my journey and sharing that along the way. And also, I when I I've been teaching for almost 15 years now, and um, I've had teachers for my whole life, and I personally have learned the most through teaching, right? And I'm very open about that on social media. I'm very open about that with my students. And I think if you just embrace uh, being a student and realize that being a student and being a teacher don't have to be mutually exclusive. And the right clients are going to understand that, and they're going to come along for that ride. And those who don't understand that, maybe they're not the best clients to work with, anyways.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, the spoon-fed thing I think hit me the most.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want to just give them all the answers anyway. You want to lead them to it. You want to teach them how to fish. But yeah, I'm sure that that's still a constant struggle of like, do I know enough? We all know you do know enough, but it's still an internal thing that I think a lot of coaches kind of go through. Like, can I teach this person, etc.
Yeah, and I think it
Um,
also speaks to just getting super clear on your offer, right? Like if you don't if
mm,
you don't know if you don't know anything about using Logic to produce tracks, you probably shouldn't have an offer that's based on that, right? So
yep.
just getting crystal clear on what it is you offer and your zone of mastery, your zone of genius, so to speak, and just really hone in on that.
Yeah, and self plug here. If you're listening to this in our group, we've got tons of trainings in the guide section to let you do that for free. Go figure out your offer because I think that is a that is a huge piece. If you're out here just like giving lessons with every single instrument and every single thing that you could maybe teach online, maybe not. Maybe you're not an expert in that field. So really figuring out like what you've been able to do. And I think you did that really well. I think you even came to us like already pretty much knowing what the offer is, just needing just an extra, kick off the cliff, if you will,
Yeah,
because you
but
were
I
you were
was
very clear.
Yeah, but I
Go
was
ahead.
also all those things that you were just talking about, right? Like teaching,
Hmm.
I came from a tutoring background. I tutored, I speak Mandarin Chinese, so I was tutoring Mandarin. I was teaching guitar lessons. Um, I was teaching English as a second language for a long time. And, not to say that, I didn't feel qualified to teach those things, but I definitely felt like I was very spread thin and ultimately wasn't focusing on what I really wanted to focus on. And then, yeah, that's when I kind of started to shift towards focusing on songwriting. And then, after, having a few clients, sort of getting them on my own, that's when I decided like, yeah, I want to invest in some guidance and some coaching.
Yeah. Speaking of a little bit of what you're just saying there, how going back to like, yes, the coaching, you've got this successful coaching business for songwriters who want to jumpstart their artist journey. But like I said at the beginning, you're also doing your own stuff. Got your own podcast. That's a little bit of a passion project for you as well. You are actively writing and touring and doing stuff with your music. How do you What's the best couple tips that you have for balancing that energy from
Yeah,
one to the other?
totally. Well, first and foremost, I believe in being transparent, and I definitely and the pandemic sort of I don't want to say forced me into doing this, but helped me into um, kind of shifting my focus, right? And so during the pandemic, couldn't tour. Actually had a couple tours planned that obviously had to be canceled. And as I started to shift my focus into building the songwriting coaching business, I started to really go all in on it. So I'll be honest in that the way that I have balanced it over the years is I have shifted focus year to year, right? And so making this decision of like, you know what, this is something that's really important to me. I'm going to prioritize this in the meantime. But obviously writing songs of my own, and playing shows, once the world did open back up again, was, continues to be a part of what I do. And I think for me, it's being really intentional about how you carry some of those things out, right? So like getting super clear on your personal goals related to your own songwriting or your own artistry, right? So like for me, for example, I haven't released music in a little bit. So I want to release 2 songs this year that I self-produce, something that I haven't really done before, right? And so just getting really clear, getting really intentional, and getting that focus that way, right? And so a lot of times I find it's less about quantity, right? And it's more about just figuring out how you want to spend your days, understanding your priorities, and just taking action steps in all aspects of your life, as you go through the weeks.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'd love to get your just like knee-jerk reaction to this phrase that I know you've heard before and we hear all the time. Those that can't do, teach.
Yeah. I think, well, first thing I think of is School of Rock, which is a great classic movie. And the full quote is those that can't do, teach, and those who can't teach, teach Jim.
Yep.
Just probably like my favorite movie from my childhood. So, there's a couple things, right? I think one is, I think a lot of times, at least in my experience, the people who have said that or who I've come across who have said that, it's rarely people who are content or happy with where they are in their own lives who are saying things like this, right? It's not people who are successful in what they're doing, who are happy in what they're doing, who are saying things like this, right? So I think that's important to recognize and remember. I think the other thing is behind every good, success story, there's a teacher, right? Like Taylor Swift's had songwriting coaches for a long time, probably still does, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think the third thing is, people, especially with music, it's such a powerful avenue, and people really have trouble opening that avenue, right? And expressing themselves and making that time for their music, right? And so if you are someone who can help someone do that, teach them how to do that, then in helping them do that, that becomes a success story, right? And so I think that line or that belief that those who can't do teach, I think it comes from this place of like, we only care about individual accolades, right? We only care about, the awards, whatever it might be. But why can't we think of success as how many people, you've directly helped, right? And so, that's how I sort of think of it. And when I think about my own life and the teachers who have helped me, like, wouldn't be where I am without my teachers, right? And so, and I would guess that the people who are saying these things, saying that line specifically, like, they should probably think back to some of the teachers that helped them and, appreciate those relationships a little bit more.
For sure. Yeah. Even looking at like songwriting, like we were saying with Taylor Swift, like there's plenty of songwriting coaches that helped tons of songwriters win Grammys when they'd never won a Grammy before ever, or gone on tour or done. So it's a lot of times just about, yeah, like you said, helping others. and that just like collective success. And not to mention you learn a lot more as you're teaching.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a consistent thing where you're teaching a thing and you kind of learn a thing and then you teach it to somebody and then you learn it even more.
Totally.
It just sinks in even deeper, if that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
how I feel, at least with a lot of things.
Yeah, and you have the right to learn. You have the right to teach. I would say if you don't love teaching, that might be a different conversation, right? I think that those who teach should love teaching, because there's someone on the other side, right? You have just as much of a right to do this, and there's no gatekeepers in the music industry anymore, right? There's no, it's easier than ever to put yourself out there. And you have a right to do that, so long as you're not spewing hate or, doing terrible things. Yeah.
You kind of, I think, tapped on this when you're talking about like COVID and the lockdown and stuff. But is there another moment that you remember when you were like, I want to pursue building a music business that's outside of my particular art? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah.
Or was it the COVID moment?
So I do, and it sort of happened in stages. But I was teaching guitar. This was in Jersey City, where I was living at the time. I think this was like 2018, and a student of mine, we were having some deep conversation. I don't even remember about what, so maybe it wasn't that deep. But we were having a conversation, and at one point she was like, you should consider life coaching. And I was like, what is that? That doesn't sound real. Like, what is that? So I did some research and I was like, oh, this is like actually really interesting. One, I like the idea of helping someone with a transformation, which is essentially what coaching is. Two, it felt like kind of an offshoot of what I had been doing with my own tutoring and my own teaching. And so in my mind, I was like, kind of, considering, doing other things or trying different things. And I was like, oh, this actually seems logical. So, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, but like at that point, I didn't even like think about like songwriting really. So I just like started Googling and like YouTubing like life coaching sessions, which in hindsight was kind of silly. And then I was like, you know what? I have no idea what I want to do with this, but like I want to do something. And so I actually invested in like a 2-week course / coach. It was a buddy of mine connected me with this guy. And this coach in 2 weeks helped me kind of realize that like what I should be coaching people on is my own experience in the music industry. And so I was in doing that. It was definitely really helpful. And then I had a first couple of like beta clients where I was kind of just helping people, musicians, just with kind of like general musician tasks, like helping people like book their shows, get organized, start posting on social media a little bit more. Just like it was still very general. And then COVID hit, and I was like, you know what? I've had a couple test clients here, but I really don't know what. I don't really know what I'm offering. Like, let me get clear on an offer. And so then I invested in another coach at like the very beginning of COVID, which was super scary because I had no idea like what, like if I was going to lose all the current clients that I had. It was a very scary thing. But I invested in this coach in this 12-week one-on-one program, and he helped me get more narrow in helping songwriters specifically, and specifically those who are looking to get started with their journey with songwriting. And then after a few more clients with that, then that's when I connected with you guys, and you guys have helped me scale tremendously since then. So yeah, anyways, very long answer to say that initial moment of speaking with my student, of her being like, you should like take up life coaching. Like, I don't know, had I not had that conversation, I have no idea what today would look like.
Yeah, I'm still kind of curious. I still not fully sure what a life coach does. Like, it kind of sounds like a therapist. I'm not really not sure. What do they coach?
I don't
Like,
know.
did you go to the grocery store today? Did you do it? I'm sorry. Any life coaches listening? I
Yeah,
don't. We're just confused. Please enlighten
yeah,
us.
yeah, exactly.
But that's really cool. Yeah, I don't think I knew that story. I also
Yeah.
didn't know that you spoke Mandarin. So the rest of the interview needs to be all
Oh
Mandarin.
gosh, yeah, yeah, that'd be a different audience probably.
100%.
Yeah,
Well, cool. Yeah, that's really exciting. Just coach after coach. I think you've just been always, since I've known you, just embracing the fact that like you don't know everything.
right,
And you respect other people who are a little bit ahead of you enough to be like, hey, I want to work with you, teach me what you know. And I think that's really humbling, especially in the music industry where ego is running wild
totally.
and they're like, I can just do this. Like a coach once told me that really like gave me chills, still gives me chills just thinking about it. It's like if you would have figured it out on your own by now, you would have done it already.
Yeah,
So it's like just really understanding that. I think you've always just kind of embraced that just from my, personal view. And I think that's really cool.
totally.
Um, okay. So here's an easier one. What's your most favorite thing about running your own business?
Um, well, I guess if we were to categorize, well, okay, I won't overthink it. I would say my favorite thing, and I'm really not trying to, I'm not trying to pander to a particular audience or person, but um, I truly think it's like at the end of a program, or even like a couple years later, when someone comes back to me and says, in whatever words they decide to use, like, wow, that really helped me and that was really powerful, right? I think it's just the the feeling, and perhaps that's selfish in nature, just like trying to like get that feeling, because it makes me feel good. It like literally makes me feel good when someone's like, hey, that really helped me. Or you can witness it. You see someone who was stuck for years, right? And now they're playing festivals, right? I think that like feeling, I love, right? If we're talking about it from like a chemical release standpoint, like I love like experiencing that, right? Um, and being able to witness that. From a lifestyle standpoint, which I would guess is maybe an interest to people who are in this group,
Mhm.
I would say from a lifestyle standpoint, I I sometimes like I'll like try to, like, it'll be towards the end of the day, and I'm like really really tired from doing whatever it was I was doing in my business and my music all day, and I will literally get a feeling of like I am so excited for tomorrow, right? And just not even like really knowing always what tomorrow will bring, but I think just like no longer like living for the weekend, right? It's like I love just like being so pumped for the days that come up. And that's how we should all feel, and it's like kind of messed up that I didn't for a long time. Whoops, sorry. I didn't for a long time, and many of us don't. But for me, that's truly special, and something I'll continue to cherish, and I don't take it for granted.
Yeah, for sure. And there's two sides to that too. So let's talk about the other for a second. I don't want this to be all rainbows and flowers and unicorns and songwriting. What's your least favorite part about running your own business?
um, yeah, I would say my least, and this is kind of a, I guess, a character flaw, but I think um, just having this feeling that uh, it could all disappear tomorrow, and I have no real reason to as to why I would think that. But I perhaps it's the imposter syndrome. Perhaps it's like they're like, wow, like I can't believe I pulled this off until now, but like who knows? Who knows if we'll be there tomorrow? And I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword because, like, on the one hand, I don't like that feeling, and it's probably my least favorite feeling that I experience daily, by the hour. But on the other side, I think that also motivates me to be like, okay, like I can't take this for granted. Like I need to not get lax. I need to um, do the things that I need to do, right? I need to, not necessarily, work crazy hard and drive myself into the ground, but be intentional about what I'm doing and stay clear. So I would say that's my least favorite part, which I guess kind of goes hand in hand with just like, I feel like this is a lot of people's answers of like just the uncertainty and instability of like where the next dollar is going to come from. So yeah, and then sometimes like there's definitely like, and there's less of it now, but there's definitely like tasks that exist in the minutia that are more tedious that I don't love. I was just talking about it with my partner today. I was like, oh, this is like not the most fun, but then I was like, yeah, but it also is contributing to this larger thing that I'm building that I do love, right? But yeah, sometimes those little tasks can be tedious, for sure.
Yeah, the uncertainty piece, I definitely feel that with our other clients as well. But I think what COVID did, from my experience, for a lot of like musicians or potential coaches or potential clients that like came out of nowhere, like, hey, I want to do this now, is because I think they saw that uncertainty is actually everywhere.
Yeah.
Not just with running your own business. Yeah, it's probably a little bit more with running your own business. There's a little more uncertainty, but accountants were losing their jobs.
Totally.
Workers where they felt so secure that they didn't think anything was going to happen. And this random one-off thing, yeah, it happens like once every 3 decades. But
Totally.
I think it showed people like, oh, it's going to be uncertain everywhere, I might as well just do what I want.
Yeah.
I might as well just try this.
Totally.
But yeah, definitely that uncertainty is a huge piece. And there's not a lot to do to get over that. I think it's just about, being present and just taking it day by day, and just keep after those tasks, like you were saying, that aren't always fun. Like nobody always wants to slide in people's DMs and potentially try to get them to buy something, but that's business. Totally. That's one of just a random task. I know not a lot of people like to do, take sales calls, etc.
Right.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for joining me here today. Let's leave on a couple things. I have one final question, and then I'll let you kind of drop what you'd like to offer
Sure.
The community here. I know you got some cool resources for everybody, even potential songwriters. Any final thoughts for anyone who's in this group or listening in, on they're stuck in this 9 to 5. They're stuck in this job that they want to get out of. It's unfulfilling. They don't really know what to do, whether they know what kind of business they want to grow themselves or they have no freaking idea.
Yeah.
What would you tell them the first step they should take from your personal experience, from your personal journey, to becoming that artistpreneur that they want to be?
Yeah. So I think my general advice would be start now, right? I think this notion that you need to quit your job and be all in on, I think if anything, that's probably not the way to go about it. Not that there's a right or wrong way, but like, I think back to how, I sort of put everything together, and I think it would have been very stressful if I just, sort of quit certain things cold turkey. So I would say start now. I would say that action is of higher value than information and expertise, right? So what I mean by that, and again, my story that I was sharing earlier, like if you're not sure what you want to offer, you're not sure if you can, right? I would just take action and try something. And then from there, things will become clearer, right? Like, I don't know that I would have really landed on helping people with songwriting if I hadn't kind of stumbled through some of the other things that I was trying first, right? Teaching guitar, for example. When I first started coaching, like just kind of generally helping musicians. I think we live in an age where information is now no longer really an asset, right? Like, because we can get it in an instant. So it kind of, information is important, but not what it once was. And so the implementation and the taking action part of it is of much higher value these days, right? Because information is ubiquitous. And so, I would just try things, take action. It's going to be messy, but from that mess, as you kind of rummage through it, you'll find those gems, and just continue to get clarity with every action that you take.
Cool. Love it. Took him to church right here. That's what just happened. That's what just happened. Yeah, cool. Love all that. What's the thing you want to offer to some people? I know you got a cool resource here. You want to talk a little bit about that, and I'll make sure to drop it in the comments below after we're done.
Yeah. I had a couple things. Now that we've had this conversation, I feel like the best thing that I can offer is essentially this private community that I have, similar to Evan's here, called the Songwriters Vault. In that community, you have the chance to network with other musicians and songwriters. Just like this group, we have a Facebook group as well called the Songwriters Vault. We host these songwriting centric master classes every so often. So if you're a member of the Vault, you have access to those, and they are free. It's just an opportunity to level up your songwriting. There's weekly tools, songwriting tools that I send, mindset hacks, so to speak, perspective shifts that can really help you in your songwriting journey. So I invite you to join that community. If you go to connorfrost.com, CONNOR frost.com/vault, VAULT, you can join the Songwriters Vault, and I will see you inside.
Awesome. Connor, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for dropping the gems. And I'll drop that link below this
Awesome.
video as well. Cool, guys. If you have any questions for me or Connor that you're watching, just drop in the comments, tag us, and we'll jump in. Appreciate y'all. See ya.